Hey friends, Dr. Christy here. So I want to talk about blood pressure for a few minutes. So many things in health in the medical world get this bad rap. They get this lower the better. Cholesterol is one of them, blood pressure is another. If your cholesterol or your blood pressure is too low, you're basically dead. There's an ideal range for everything in our bodies, right? So let's talk about blood pressure for a minute. As we age, blood pressure will go up a little bit incrementally over time. This is not necessarily a bad thing. The greater the needs that are placed on our bodies, the more blood pressure becomes important so that it can increase that pressure so that you can get blood and nutrients and everything that you need to different parts of your body that may be a little bit strained and more vulnerable now when you're 80 as compared to when you're 20. So an increase in blood pressure as we age is normal. But at what point is it too high? At what point is it too low? Let's go through this. Too low to me is anything under like 90 over 79, like something in that range. Really, I like to see your blood pressure start with 100 something. If it's anything lower than 100 something, it's starting to get too low, and that tells me there's adrenal involvement. We'll get to the adrenals in a minute. Too high, I was once taught by one of my mentors that as we age, it does go up naturally. 110 plus half your age is the upper limit for your top number, that diastolic number. And then anything over 90 and under would be acceptable. So let's take this for example. Say you are 40 years old, 110 plus half your age then becomes 130. So as long as your blood pressure when you're 40 is under 130 over 90, you're okay. Do we want it maybe a little bit under that? Sure. And depending on your level of health, depending on how much salt you consume, there's so many other things, right? But big picture, there's no reason to jump on medications if you're within these frames. So let's say you're 80 years old. As long as your blood pressure then is under 150 over 90, you're in pretty darn good shape. Keep this as a perspective. We don't need to super get crazy alarmist when our blood pressure creeps up a little bit as we age. This is a normal phenomenon. Now let's go back to the adrenals like I talked about before. Our blood pressure should change. It should shift every time we move about our day. When we exercise, it should increase, right? When we sleep, it should decrease. Why are these things happening? In my office, I will actually do something to check how your blood pressure varies in different positions. So for instance, let's say your blood pressure is 120 over 80, just like that standard normal range when you're sitting. Fantastic. That's usually when they call it a day and they don't do any more testing. In my office, I'll have you stand up then. We'll keep the cuff off on you and I'll have you stand up. Your blood pressure should go up about 4 to 12 points when you go from sitting to standing. This is a function of your adrenal glands. The adrenals are the glands in your body that handle all the stress in your life no matter where it comes from. So whether we are talking about emotional stress, your relationship, your job, your family, your friends, or we're talking about a chemical stressor, poor air quality, something you're eating that doesn't agree with you, something that you're not eating that your body needs, like a mineral, or a physical stressor, falling down the stairs or breaking your ankle or something like that, right? All stressors accumulate in your body, and your adrenals have to deal with all of it. So over time, if your body can't handle the amount of stress that it's handling anymore, your adrenals are going to get overwhelmed and they're going to say, sorry, we can no longer handle putting out the level of hormone that we've been putting out so that your body can increase your blood pressure when you go from sitting to standing anymore. If that doesn't happen, if it stays the same, that's not necessarily great. What's worse is if it drops. You'll know if you get a You'll know if you get a blood pressure drop when you go from sitting to standing, if you get a little lightheaded or you get a little bit dizzy when you change positions too quickly. If that's ever happened to you, this is a signal that your adrenals are probably a little bit weak. You may need some waters. You may need more water, rather. You may need more mineral balancing. And quite frankly, you likely need some kind of adrenal support. Because when that's happening, your blood pressure is tanking instead of increasing those 4 to 12 points like your body needs to cope with that change in position. Likewise, when you lay on your back, it's then a function of the kidneys to reverse that hormonal process and relax your blood pressure when you go into that lying position, because you no longer need as high of a blood pressure to reach every aspect of your body when you're sitting or standing, when you're lying down, right? Keep these things in mind. Blood pressure is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Each person is an individual and comes with it a unique set of circumstances, a unique set of physiology that is not necessarily just, oh, you're at 127 over 86, you need to be put on blood pressure medications. It's not that simple. So keep this in mind. One other point that I really want to make, many patients of mine go into their medical doctors and they have one reading of high blood pressure. Let's say it is actually very high. Let's say you're 40 years old and your blood pressure was 170 over 90. That's really way too high for that age, right? One reading doesn't mean you have high blood pressure. You could have just had coffee right before you went in that day. You could have just had a stressful event. You might have just fallen down the stairs, so your body might be primed, or you might be deathly afraid of your practitioner. So there's so many different reasons you can get one reading of high blood pressure that doesn't necessarily indicate a diagnosis of hypertension. I always recommend you need 3 consecutive readings day over day to then make a diagnosis of high blood pressure that may warrant medication. It doesn't always warrant medication in the first place anyway. So keep these tips in mind. Drop some comments if you have some questions. Let me know if you have anything that you'd like me to address. And until next time, have a fantastic day.